What up, everybody? What up, boys and girls? Chef New Zealand Murder History podcast. Check this out. Stan Graham was a pakeha farmer from Kokatahi, which isn't far from Kotarangi. He was getting bullied by the locals for reasons unknown, and this would all come to a head on one day, the 8th of October 1941. Was the worst police shooting in New Zealand criminal history. Now, when I say reasons unknown, I mean many reasons unknown to me. You see, everyone here on the West Coast has a different story about what happened, and I'm just not certain. But one bloke told me Stan Graham's wife, Dorothy Graham, would bully Stan and call him useless and good for nothing, etc. And then one day he just snapped. Another one, and this one sounds like West Coast style, goes that the Graham farm was the best farm in all of Hokitika Gorge, and the other locals all wanted to own it. The house wasn't in great nick, although I think they might have had a new house built shortly before the shooting in 1941, but I guess the old farmhouse wasn't in really good nick, and then the dairy cows were all really fat and well looked after though. Yeah, feeding on fields of lush green grass. I mean, kind of like you can see today, because the Graham house is not there anymore, but the fields in front of you, that's where it was. It was just 25 metres back from the road. Only problem was Stan Graham didn't want to sell his farm. So they got the milkman, so like the guy who collects milk for dairy farms, to stop collecting Stan Graham's milk. Now, of course, if you're a dairy farmer and the milkman won't pick up your milk, then you don't get paid. Wait, cut, stop the show for a minute. There's some stuff I forgot to mention. No one say anything mean about the cops who got shot dead in the comment section, please. I mean, they went to work in the morning and they never came home, and that's awful. And you know, so we're not gonna have any like pro cop hating shit on the comment section, or I'll just take it down, you know. I mean, you know, if you don't like the New Zealand police, fair enough, but there's a time and a place to you know, protest against them, and like this is a real sad day. There's no winners here, you know. It was well, anyway, I'll keep reading, you'll see what I mean. Yeah, so New Zealand Murder History Podcast doesn't intend on causing offence to any of the 7 victims or the Graham family. My show is just for educational purposes and not suitable for children. Also, anyone who's ever been in a mass shooting, because I know, you know, they've, anyway, yeah, anyone who's suffering PTSD, yeah, also click off and contact your GP or call one of the many 0800 numbers available. I'm not going to list them, just Google search them and pick one that sounds suitable. Anyway, back to the story time. Fast forward a minute and Stan Graham's letting off gunshots in the middle of the night. I almost forgot, actually, we're going to reference this one. So we've got references for this include, but not limited to, newzealandhistory.govt.nz. So nzhistory.govt.nz. Website article, Stan Graham's killing spree on the West Coast, 8th of October 1941. And you can find that one on www.nzhistory.govt.nz. Website updated on the 4th of August 2023. Another one I used was tiara.govt.nz. And there was directory of New Zealand biographics story Graham Eric Stanley rather. Yeah, Graham Eric Stanley, George, first published year 2000, written by Christopher Carson, and I accessed the site on November 16th. So we're going to read a letter from Stan Graham's sister. Now, the name in this article, she was only referred to as Mrs. Scott, so I'm guessing obviously Stan Graham's sister would have had the name Graham, and then she would have married a bloke by the name of Scott, but yeah, she's just listed as Mrs. Scott, so I'm not sure what her first name is there. Anyway, the letter is quoted from NZ Herald article, 17th of October, 2016, Stanley Graham's murderous rampage haunts West Coast. Okay, so this is the 75 years later on, and that one's available on www.nzherald.co.nz. So, yeah, so that's what we're going to read here. So this is what his sister had to say. We have been through a nightmare which seems unending. God grant they find him soon. He is alone against 100 men and more, starving, cold, perhaps with pneumonia, a gunshot wound to his right shoulder. He had molested no one unless he has been shot at. He keeps trying to get to his home and walks there openly inside of the mall, although she says he does. Although she said he deserved to die for taking the law into his own hands, I wish he would go out quickly. So I don't think the whole quote is actually her. It's like, this is in the article, and then they've written, because the way it reads, it sounds like, although she said he deserved to die quickly. They're just like dissecting small parts of the letter. So yeah, it's not actually a whole quote of just that lady. Obviously the journalist has written in a bit here, so yeah. But anyway, she said, it is the suspense that is just killing. We have some Auckland police guarding the house. And then the sister says it is doubtful he even shot the home guard, who she described as undisciplined and untrained and should not have taken the risk of entering his house. You know, Stan, how sporting and generous and decent he was. There's a lot of sympathy for him in spite of it all. His marriage ruined his life. We all know that. Even now, her, and then it's brackets, Dorothy's people won't have her at home. So yeah, so like I said, that was kind of confusing because it had like quotes throughout. I thought that whole thing was one quote, but reading it now, it's like, yeah. But anyway, that was Mrs. Scott, Stan Graham's sister. And I read another one, NZ, it's just called, article says, Stan's neighbours were poisoning his cows. Yeah. Yeah, and the police weren't investigating. Oh, hang on. Sorry. No, disregard that last bit. That was just a note I wrote to myself there. I read by mistake. Well, whatever was going on, Stan threatened one of his neighbours, possibly Mr. Cropper, with a rifle. The policeman down Canary was told but decided it was best to let Stan Graham cool down. The next day, so 8th of October, 1941, he still hadn't cooled down, and the 4 cops from Hokitika drove out to the Graham farm, out to Hokitika Gorge, to disarm the dairy farmer. They knew Stan Graham was a boxer who didn't smoke cigarettes, and he was in good shape. He had also been a member of the Kokatahi Gun Club from sometime in the late 1920s to the early 1930s. In fact, Stan Graham was a crack shot with a rifle. So the 4 cops left the Hokitika police station in a police car on the last drive they would ever go on. Edward Best, Peter Tollock, Frederick Jordan, and William Cooper were not ready for a gunfight. They didn't realize how bad, Graham's mental health had slipped at that point and what he would be willing to do to protect his farm. I mean, Stan Graham was a good boxer, but, if he really did have beef with the locals at the time, which, from what we're reading in these articles might be the case, you can see why he'd want to hang on to his guns, but yeah. Yeah, so this case is documented, but yeah, a lot of people on the West Coast have different stories they heard growing up, you know? Like, yeah, some people were very pro Stan Graham. I don't think they were necessarily pro the shooting, but like, they liked him. Apparently he was quite likable, and, you know, maybe other people didn't like him, I guess. I got this other article here I can read as well. Yeah, let's do it. So on the 27th of June 2020, Stanley Graham, our most infamous police killer. And you can find that article on www.stuff.co.nz. Yeah, so he was born and raised in Kokatahi, and he worked from a very early age at his father's Longford Hotel, 10 miles out of Hokitika. It was there that he met his wife, Dorothy McCoy, when she moved from Rakaya in the late 1920s to work at the hotel. After living in the hotel for 6 months, they took up a dairy property at Kowhitirangi, called Kotarangi back then. But yeah, the proper Māori pronunciation of this town is Kowhitirangi, but yeah. Anyway, when they raised a son and daughter, the couple were not known to socialise much. But the Grahams kept cordial relations with their neighbours right through the 1930s. That all changed for them around 1940, after a failed cattle breeding project left them in serious debt, closely followed by the Westland Cooperative Dairy Company condemning their cream, meaning they were suddenly incomeless. So if you cross-reference that back to that other thing before about I read that title of the article about people poisoning his cows. So I'm not saying they were poisoning his cows. This is what Stan Graham was saying. So was he delusional and paranoid, or were the neighbours really poisoning his cows? You know, I mean, I just don't know. Obviously, I wasn't there, but yeah, it's hard to. I mean, either one could be true. You know, it's just like I don't know. But yeah, I skipped a bit there because the article's quite long. On October the 4th, 1941, a neighbour of Graham, Anne Kerr Madsen, complained to Constable Edward Best in nearby Canary that Graham had accused him of poisoning his cattle. Appreciating Graham's hot-headedness, Best decided not to respond and just to let things cool down. It had worked before with the man. So that was the cop in Canary. So Canary's like it's closer than Hokitika, you know what I mean? So he'd be like the first cop that the neighbour went to. Like geographically, if he went all the way to Hokitika, it would take longer, do you know what I mean? It's a suburb closer to here. Yeah, a week later, Graham confronted Madsen again, this time with a rifle. Best drove out to discuss the matter with Graham, but backed off when Graham pointed 2 rifles out the window at him. Best tore back to Hokitika for backup. Okay. I didn't know that bit, actually. I just thought they all went out there that day. And returned to the farm with Sergeant William Cooper and Constables Frederick Jordan and Peter Tulloch. So check this out. These guys here, these were the guys that went to take Stan Graham's guns that day. The ones that he shot, yeah. Yeah, and there's the monument there that would have been at the start of his driveway in the corner of the screen. We'll go check it out soon. We should check it out now, actually, because it's not raining. No, I'll keep reading this podcast. After a short conversation inside his house, Sergeant Cooper moved to disarm Graham, who retaliated by immediately shooting and wounding him, turning the gun to shoot Constable Best as well as Constable Jordan and Tollick came running into the house. He took aim and killed them instantly with one bullet, going through one and into the other. So I'm guessing they were like running down a corridor, and he's using quite a high-powered rifle. Yeah, so that's obviously really bad. But then yeah, I'll skip some more anyway, because I don't just want to read an entire article, But yeah, the ensuing manhunt was the biggest ever conducted in New Zealand history, personally overseen by the Commissioner of Police, Dennis Cummings. 100 armed police and several hundred New Zealand Army and Home Guard personnel combed the surrounding countryside for 12 days. Their orders to shoot Graham on sight if they found him still armed. On October the 10th, both Graham's Winchester rifles and 800 rounds of ammunition were discovered in a bush cache. One of his rifles was covered in dried blood, confirmed he was wounded. Over the next few days, Graham's blood-soaked shirt and the .303 rifle he had stolen were also recovered. Yeah, so I might cut the article there. But yeah, basically, I mean, you can read more about it online and stuff. It's just, well, basically, yeah, that's sort of in quite a good detail in that article. So basically, they were fighting like guerrilla warfare versus Stan Graham in the bush. So, like him versus the National Guard. It's completely mental. Like, what a crazy time in Southwestland up here, yeah, with the National Guard up here hunting Stan Graham and stuff. I mean, I just went up Hokitika Gorge. It was nice, man. It's really cool up there. If you guys are around, go up here for a holiday. It's mean. But, yeah, I mean, 1941. Totally bonkers. But anyway, that's it. That's the story of the worst ever New Zealand police shootings. And like I said, a lot of people view Stan Graham as a man who had tried to protect his farm, a man who was being oppressed and snapped, while others see him as a crazy, violent mass shooter. But, perhaps he was a bit of both. What do you, watching the video, know about Stan Graham and the 1941 Hokitika Gorge shootings? Because I'd love to know. But yeah, Stan Graham got buried in Hokitika Cemetery, and apparently his gravestone, it just says Stanley. That's all it says. I've never been to it, but anyway, the Graham children had their names changed, and they were relocated around New Zealand in a bid to distance them from the mass shootings, thus giving them a chance at a normal life. And my boss from the gas station told me that a patient from the old Seaview Lunatic Asylum in Hokitika would go and pick rhododendron flowers and put them on his grave every night at sundown. Okay, that's it. That's my show. Have a good day. Yeah, so that was just I thought that'd be kind of interesting if I told you stuff that I heard, like that thing my boss told me, my old boss, and read some articles as well, because it's like, obviously no one really knows what happened that day, because, the victims were all shot. Basically, yeah, Stan Graham, he killed those first 4 cops that come to disarm him, and then he shot the neighbor's farmhand, I believe it was. We're going to just go double check that. It's over at the monument. We're going to go check that out in a minute. I'm pretty sure he was a farmhand there, Henry Grocott. Yeah, so Stan Graham shot him, and then he ran off into the bush, And then he came back a few nights later, and there were 2 National Guard dudes guarding his house, and he shot both of them. And then he kept, fighting in the wilderness out here in the bush, and living under a hollowed out tree, and it's insane. I mean, it yeah, it takes a special kind of person to like go up against the National Guard. Like, I'm not trying to say it's like good or anything, but I'm just saying, like, even most criminals can't really do stuff like that, like to take on the National Guard and guerrilla warfare in the bushes and stuff. Like, it's just bizarre. It's so hardcore. I mean, the guy was like I mean, he was clearly in very good shape, and how he kept fighting after he got shot in the shoulder. It's like, yeah, it was a pretty hardcore kind of dude, but I mean, he was obviously just losing it. And, whether he was getting bullied by the neighbors, I mean, probably. Were they really poisoning his cows? I don't know. I mean, potentially not. He might just be delusional, but then, maybe they really were poisoning his cows. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say either way. Yeah, so that was I thought you guys would find that interesting because I made a video ages ago about it, but it's terrible. It's like the worst it's like the first video I ever made and probably the worst video I ever made. It's real like it's just a bit one-dimensional, so I might take it down and put this up instead. I've been meaning to do that for a while. You guys want to check out the monument? Yeah, check this out. Alright, sweet. Check this out. It's bad, man. Yeah, so there's a house up here, and basically, yeah, where these fields are, and the police came here, and they went to take Stan Graham's guns, but, I mean, they knew he was pretty crazy, but they didn't know how crazy he really was, because, like, they did think that he was going to give them the guns, but, yeah, this is what happened anyway. Yeah, see, so got, the name at the top is the last name. So William Cooper, Sergeant William Cooper, 43 years, New Zealand Police, Hokitika. Percival Campbell Tulloch, age 35 years, Constable, New Zealand Police, Hokitika. George Sackville Ridley, age 54 years, Chief Agricultural Instructor, Canterbury Education Board, Christchurch. Okay, agricultural instructor, right? Maybe he was working for the National Guard as well, I'm not really sure there. Anyway, Edward Mark Best, age 42 years, Constable, New Zealand Police, Canary. Yeah, so that's the guy that someone would have gone down and talked to him in Canary because it's closer than Hokitika, yeah. John Richard Maxton Colson, age 29 years, farmer and home guardsman, Kodarangi. Okay, so he was a Kodarangi local. Hutchinson Gregory George Thomas, age 32 years, sawmill and home guardsman, Canary. Frederick William Jordan, age 26 years, constable. So he's be the youngest one, I think. Yeah, 26, none were younger than that. No, it's the youngest fella. Yeah, and he was New Zealand Police, Hokitika. Far out. Yeah, so they built this monument here, which is pretty cool. It's got like a unicorn and a lion with the crest, and it's, I don't know, it's cool. It's just really nice. It's really well done. Whoever put this together was pretty skilled. But yeah, and then over here it says this window presents a view from the gate down the pathway 25 meters distant from the house and environs where the victims of this incident were slain. Yeah, so that's the view that goes from the gate to the Graham farm. Yeah, so you probably can't see too much today. It's a bit of a rainy day, you know what I mean? But this is where the gate used to be. It's pretty cool. Yeah, and that was the worst New Zealand police shooting.